You've been a teacher yourself your whole life, whether it's teaching kids how to code in high school, TA in college, you're literally building a startup in the ed tech scene. What do people not understand about the American education system?
A lot, actually. I think that people don't actually know how school works. A few things that I've been surprised about is somewhat the amount of freedom that schools have. Like, even though there are centralized requirements for public schools, individual teachers and administrators can have a huge impact on their communities.
Thank you, boys.
A generational impact on a town can be caused by a phenomenal administrator. That's because schools have a lot of freedom, districts have a lot of freedom on their own relative to at least what I had believed beforehand. The other
Mhm.
thing I think is just like, and this might be controversial, I think that there's just a lot of inefficiencies. People are lowering bars for kids in school. And I think that that's a really negative thing. And again, that might be controversial. I think that a lot of people are worried about stress and anxiety and things like that. And I do think that there's merit to that, certainly. I personally don't think that the solution is to reduce expectations.
Let's say in a world, Washington Post writes an article, Arman Hezarkhani elected Secretary of Education. What are the three things on your agenda?
Interesting. One of the most important parts of education is discovery of what your passion is. So many people our age, 20s, 30s, feel lost. And I get this question a lot, like from friends and stuff. They're like, how did you find your passion? And honestly, the answer is luck. 100% luck. I just had parents and fell into computer science and fell into education and loved it. I totally got lucky, but we can't rely on luck. We have to
Mm,
create an education system that allows people, students, kids to find their passions. Like right now, the way that they allow kids to find their passions is like they have these like websites that are like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, oh, like I want to be this. Like, what the hell is that? That's not what I mean. Throw kids into a project-based course where they have to actually build a robot. Like it could be a small robotic, it could be written in Python, not C. Actually give them a taste of what that career, what that life, what that practice might look like. And I think it's important that we start doing that early so that they have opportunities to try a lot of things. And this doesn't require a huge budget. All it requires is a little bit of creativity and honestly, a knowledge of what is going on in the industries that are growing and modern and changing. And it's really difficult for a curriculum developer to be tasked with, hey, you need to build curriculum that's going to last 10 years. Part of the reason why we don't have this like discoverability of a new passion is because it's really hard for that to last 10 years. It's brand new.
mhm.
It's changing every day. In order to do that, we would need to create more flexibility in curriculum development, retraining teachers, paying teachers to be retrained, all that stuff. The second thing, I don't think that everybody should need to go to college. And
Mm,
so giving
mm.
students respectable outlets to actually learn trade skills. And honestly, I would consider programming a trade. You can go and you can learn how to program as a high schooler. I think post high school, you should be able to get a job as a programmer. It's ridiculous that kids are not able to learn those things and they have to get into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to get a
Mhm.
job writing HTML. That's ridiculous. And the third thing I think would be like, you want to say like, oh, pay the teachers more, but I recognize there are like
Yeah.
economic issues. A big problem is just like I said, the inefficiencies. You go into a school and you see like a bunch of brand new crap, like a bunch of brand new, like actual like toys, like 3D printers and all this stuff that maybe they're necessary, maybe they're not, but the teachers are being paid crap. I think that there's just a lot of room for making public school economics more efficient so that teachers can get paid more.
My parents, probably like yours, they thought the best thing I got out of school was this fancy piece of paper. But I think like what they don't appreciate is maybe they do, it could be wrong, is like the friends. Babson, like I learned a lot about business things, right? But it's solely the relationships. If you were to go back to the point you said about not everyone having to go to school and after high school they can go into like a coding job. Do you think, however, there will be social ramifications because they won't have that kind of development per se being in a college ecosystem?
That's an interesting argument. Here's the thing. I credit my experience at Carnegie Mellon as the exclusive stepwise improvement in who I was as a person. It allowed me to develop skills that I would not have otherwise developed. What I find interesting is that so many people lived before us, before there was like university. And the argument can be made, but like there wasn't progress or as much progress before that, not comparing apples and oranges. Another thing that has happened in the past couple hundred or even dozens of years is globalization, or even just like connectedness in the United States. Like moving out of the house is a coming of age moment that I think will be there regardless. And a lot of people, even now, go to college right next to their parents' house. And then a lot of
Sure.
people say, oh, I want to go like the other side of the country. And so like that happens with college. I think the same thing could and probably would happen with a career. Like, oh, I'm looking for my first job as a computer scientist. I just studied programming in high school. I'm only going to apply to jobs in New York. Why? Because of the same reason I want to go to university in New York, right? Like I think that we as human beings, we would adapt and we would figure it out.